for Janai and Miles, just talk about the journey you guys have been on, coming from other places and then thriving at Auburn.
Janai first.
Janai first? For sure. My journey has been amazing. It's been a long, fun ride. I started in Morehead State, Kentucky, a small city right next to Lexington, which I've kind of, took 2 years to kind of find myself and develop my game and becoming who I am today. And, a couple years ago, transferred over with the Auburn Tigers and Bruce Pearl. And, just kept trying to get better, kept growing my game. And, right now I'm sitting at a podium at the Sweet 16 in Atlanta, looking to advance.
Miles?
For me, like Janai said, it's been nothing but amazing. Did 3 years at Georgia Tech, so this is a full circle moment for me to be in March Madness, Sweet 16, and being able to have the opportunity to come back here to Atlanta, play in front of my family and stuff like that. So, and just playing for BP and Auburn has been nothing but great for me. So I'm just super grateful.
Let's go to the left side. We have 4 over here. Go ahead, fourth row on the aisle.
Chris Ballas at the Wolverine on 3. Janai, Dusty May said he recruited you hard at FAU. Do you remember that? How close was that to happening? And did you have a relationship with him?
Yeah, he did recruit me pretty hard. Somebody committed. I was supposed to go on a visit, but somebody committed the weekend before. And so, nothing ever, happened after that. The scholarship was took, so, yeah, they was recruiting me pretty hard, though.
Back row on the aisle.
Myron Maker of ESPN for all 3 players. What happened before the season that kind of brought this group together and helped you all prepare for what we're seeing now today?
Miles, why don't you start, and we'll come my way.
For me, I can speak for me. I mean, I just looked at our roster before coming here. That was the biggest thing for me. I knew Auburn had a lot of great pieces coming back, and I felt like we could do something special, what we're doing right now. So that was the deciding factor for me coming here, and I knew me coming here would just add another piece to this team and make us even more dangerous.
Dylan?
First and foremost, all glory to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. For me, the difference was just everyone just buying in off the bat. Bruce Pearl had these mandatory 9 a.m. breakfasts. It's kind of been our tradition the past 2 years. But the difference with this year's team is we started to have Bible study at these breakfasts, really just planting the seeds for the Lord to just have His way in our hearts and just learning sacrifice early on, sacrificing our time for the Lord, sacrificing our pride for each other. These guys just bought in.
Did you want everybody on that? Yeah. Go ahead, Janai.
Kind of what Dylan said and what Miles said, I think before this year started, I think everybody kind of took a leap in their faith, and kind of, that's on the court and off the court, our brotherhood, our togetherness kind of all plays a hand in our Bible study and things like that. But also as the guys we brought in, we brought our quarterback last year. We won the SEC championship, we had a good year, but we lost the first round. And we come in and bring guys in like Miles, Tahad, Turtle, Jakai, JP, so you're bringing good guys like that, and they just all came in looking to do whatever it takes to win, and it's just paying off.
2 more on the far left in the 4th row.
Joe Henderson, The Technique. Miles, obviously you're returning to Atlanta and close to your previous school. How have you changed since leaving Tech, and how has it been adapting to a new role on your team?
I wouldn't say I really changed for the most part. I'm still the same guy I was here, hardworking, likes to get in the gym, stuff like that. So, I mean, it's just adapting to my new teammates and stuff like that. I think that's the biggest difference from Georgia Tech and here, just learning how to play with new players and seeing what they're comfortable on the court and stuff like that. So I wouldn't say it was really a change, but just learning how to adapt.
One more there on the left side.
Shelley Winter, 95.5 WSB, Atlanta's News and Talk. 2 questions, so I don't have to take too much time. One, the first question is, what has the impact of NIL been on, not your individual careers, but do you think on college basketball as a whole? And the second question is, Mr. Caldwell and Mr. Broom, both of you brothers mentioned your love of the Lord. I'm seeing that more and more within college basketball, within sports. What do you attest that to?
I'll answer the second one first. I believe that the Lord is just moving in the country. There've always been players that have been outspoken, in their faith. I remember the person kind of that planted that seed for me when I was younger was Steph Curry. I wasn't a Steph Curry fan at all, but just seeing him glorify the Lord and how he operates was something that I've always wanted to do, and it's helped me grow closer to God when I was a freshman in high school. But I think the country's just learning that we can't live life without him. We can't do without him at all. And the Lord allows us to have success, but we're not praising the Lord just because we're successful. But there's just been many times that the Lord just kind of showed his hand. I'm not sure why there's a resurgence in the athlete world. I can't really answer that outside of saying that the Lord is moving. He's just having his way, and he's using these athletes to be a vessel to just kind of just continue to spread who he is each day.
I'll say kind of the same thing what Dylan said, but I add a little bit more. I think it's just, more people are speaking out and, sharing their beliefs and sharing the word and on the platform we've been given, so I think it just opens the door for, athletes who may have the same beliefs to kind of agree or to speak their heart or what's on their mind as well, just by seeing other or big athletes like Steph Curry doing it and people like that. I feel like it just opens that door for everybody to do it.
And then to answer your NIL question, for me, it's just been life-changing. I think it's been beneficial to every single person. I think, obviously, you can look at a person like Janai Broom, who probably went into the league, I think his first year at Auburn or second year at Auburn. But the impact of NIL has kind of really just allowed players to stay in college for longer, and it's kind of been that trade-off of, do I want to risk going late first round or, second round, or do I want to come back to school and get more money and also work on my game and work on those defects rather than going into the NBA where it's a business, where it's a cutthroat business, where you just can't afford that time really just to go in there unready. And so I think NIL is one of the best things that happened, in college basketball history. I do think it needs to be a little bit more regulated. But other than that, I'm grateful for the opportunity. I'm grateful to be so blessed to be in a time as this where athletes can kind of just really just reap the benefits of the work we put in. So it's rewarding.
Back row on the right side.
Jack Leo, Atlanta Journal-Constitution. I'm just curious, this one for Dylan and for Miles. Obviously, you guys got some roots in the greater Atlanta area. What's it kind of meant, I guess, for you two guys to be able to play close to where y'all grew up and where you played so much ball?
For me, it means everything. When I was coming out of high school, that's the reason why I chose Georgia Tech, to kind of stay close to my family. And then Auburn, coming here, Georgia, Atlanta is only like an hour and a half away from Atlanta. So, like I said, this is a full circle moment for me to be able to be in March Madness, Sweet 16, and come to Atlanta and play, have a chance to go to the Elite Eight in Atlanta, and then have a chance to go to the Final Four in Atlanta in front of my family and stuff like that. So, it's just a blessing, and I'm super grateful for this opportunity.
Dylan?
Yeah, I'd say the same thing. It's a dream come true in a full circle moment. I grew up watching the Hawks in Phillips Arena, and so it's just real fun to be in Atlanta. Shout out McEachern High School. I don't know what high school you went to, but McEachern's the best high school in all of Georgia. Everybody knows that. We got Sharif Cooper, Isaac Okoro.
No Dylan Cardwell?
Nah, I'm a humble guy. So we got way more guys than that. I'm just blanking on a few. But anyways, we're a football school, basketball school, McEachern track school. McEachern got everything, 7A. Anyways, I just love being in Atlanta. I love being in Georgia. It's just a great opportunity to just continue to just really just show how great, Georgia is as a state. I think it's one of the best states in the country.
Fourth row on the right.
Second.
John Titel from Hoops HD for Janai. I believe the only two players in the history of the sport with 2,600 points and 1,500 rebounds are Elvin Hayes and you. I know you can't win games in the tournament without all your teammates and coaches, but as far as your individual legacy, do you think you're one of the best players in the history of the sport?
I'm going to leave that up to everybody else to judge. I'm not going to speak on that. I'm still playing. I'm trying to win a game versus Michigan. And me and my teammates trying to, advance as far as we can and keep making history.
Second row on the right.
Charles Odom with the Associated Press for Janai and Dylan. Coach Pearl said that he ran it by the players Saturday night before beginning his post-game with a political statement about the hostage being released. Did it surprise you that he came to you guys with that request, or are you accustomed to him having a political slant and interest in stating his political opinion from maybe the recent presidential election and other things?
You know, I think Auburn University does a great job of allowing us to really just live as Americans. You know, the First Amendment, kind of the freedom of speech. Auburn kind of gives us that platform to use our speech to really just show what we're passionate about. You know, when George Floyd tragically passed, Auburn gave us a platform to talk about Black Lives Matter, and Bruce Pearl allowed the players to go out there and talk about things they're passionate about in the same way. He has that same right to talk about things he's passionate about. Obviously, he is Jewish, he is Israeli, and he's passionate about Israel. And so I think that he does have the right to obviously be an American and speak about what he's passionate about, regardless of the fact of what our views are, because he comes across in a respectful but obviously compassionate way.
And to kind of do what Dylan said, you know, like he said, he asked us, you know, so he did it in a respectful way, you know, but that's the type of guy he is, you know, he has a strong belief in what he loves, but at the end of the day, he still asked us to see how we felt about it, and like you said, we're behind our coach, you know, and what he loves.
Back row on the left on the aisle.
Myron Metcalf, ESPN again. For Janai and Dylan, some teams start a couple 7-footers. I don't know how many have ever played that pick and roll, pick and pop game that Michigan does through their 7-footers. What do you all have to do to deal with that? How difficult is that with 2 7-footers and the way that they use them?
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be different and unique. I'm appreciative of the opportunity of the 2 great guys. You know, 2 NBA prospects as well. So just another opportunity just to play against the field. But you know, Janai and I play a lot of 2-on-2 in the country. I mean, we play a lot of 2-on-2 in the summer, really just against AD, against Chaney, Miles. We played against the whole team, and we didn't lose a single game. We won every series, and so we got pretty good chemistry, and we're pretty confident in our skill set and stuff like that. But it should be a fun matchup. But we've been playing 2-on-2 all summer to prepare us for this moment. You know, Miles Kelly couldn't stick with us.
I can
Wanna weigh in
testify.
on that?
I mean, yeah, like Dylan said, you know, it's gonna be fun. You know, you have to enjoy the moment. It's a Sweet 16. You know, we're going up against 2 7-footers. You know, it's gonna be fun. Everybody in the locker room looking forward to the matchup. You know, our front line is definitely looking forward to the matchup. But yeah.
Third row on the right on the aisle.
Dylan, you've got, or will have 2 championship rings from your time at Auburn.
3.
3, with two SEC, 2 regular season championships.
Yeah,
from
2
your time
regular
at
season,
Auburn.
1 SEC tournament. You know what I'm saying? More coming soon.
You've seen kind of the transformation of Coach Pearl taking advantage of the new rules and bringing in guys like Dylan, like Janai and Miles and others. How different has that been, and what role have you played as the old man of the bunch in kind of accepting those guys into the fold and making them feel comfortable?
Yeah, you know, Bruce Pearl recruited some great guys over the years that I've been here, but he stands on the business when it comes to saying that he does recruit guys that are Auburn men that are just going to come in. They're going to be guys that you love, and so he's got role guys in here. He's gotten guys that we need for scoring, for defense, for facilitating, and so the role I play is just I try to be the glue. You know, shout out Gorilla Glue if y'all want an NIL deal, but you know, I'm super glue. You know what I'm saying? I'm not with that. I love Elmer's, but I don't know if Elmer's got a super glue. So Gorilla Glue, I just try to hold it tight. You know, without glue you can't build things, and you know. I just try to be the glue guy for this team, you know, because you really can't go anywhere without that guy. That's kind of just, you know, being here before, sharing my experience, but also kind of keeping these guys level-headed. You know, I think, you know, we're in the Sweet 16, we're Lord willing going to the Elite 8, but I haven't been this far before. But I kind of just try to share my experience with them and realize it's just a game, the game we love to play.
Hey, Coach. Andy Mathis, USA Today. I'm not sure if you've heard or seen, but former coach Chuck Person is supposed to be at your game this weekend. Has that been a motivator or a distraction at all for your team, or have you even paid attention to that?
You know, I haven't really paid attention to it. I know Chuck's in Atlanta, so I'm sure like all of our other, you know, former great Auburn Tigers, Chuck's excited about his team being in the Sweet 16.
Let's go third row here on the left on the aisle.
BP, Justin Hoganson, Auburn Live. I was going to ask you about playing and also portaling right now. We've heard a lot of coaches just talk about the difficulty in that right now. How are you sort of balancing trying to win a national championship and rebuild a roster for next year?
Yeah, I loved Tom Izzo's response. I loved it. It was authentic. It was real. And he is laser focused right now on trying to give his team the best chance they possibly can to advance to the Final Four. And I get it. I get it completely. I'm not spending any time on it. I'm focused on, like Coach, what we're doing. I've made a couple calls, but not many, just to reach out. We've got a big staff, so our guys are just letting the potential prospects know that we got work to do. Hopefully, we're working for a couple of weeks, but when our season is over, we'll begin to put that roster together next year. I think the only other thing I would say about it is this, because I was also on the NABC committee for trying to figure out when the best time to open the portal. I'm glad that the portal has gone from 45 days to 30 days, because I think 30 days is enough time for those guys to decide whether they want to stay or whether they want to go. And I think the reason for the timing of doing it just after the Sweet 16 is almost all the teams in the country except 16 teams, the season's over. And so if you're a student athlete and you're at another Division I institution and your season was over at the beginning of March, you're supposed to have to wait 3 or 4 weeks until the Final Four is over before you can move on with the rest of your life. And so I think the National Association of Basketball Coaches kind of looked at it and said, hey, what might be best for all the student athletes when we decided to kind of do it at this window. Yeah, it's a little inconvenient for 16 teams, but these other student athletes need to be able to figure out what's going on for the rest of their lives.
Back row on the left on the aisle.
And just so you know, I'm also not a big fan of this transfer every year. We're teaching the kids to flee, not fight. I think the one-time transfer is great. I think the grad transfer is great. I always had guys transfer and came in, and in that year where they were not eligible to play, they got caught up academically, they got caught up physically, and they were so much more valuable after spending a year on campus, understanding the system, like bringing back another veteran. So, but I don't make the rules, but I got to play by them.
Go ahead, Myron.
Myron Metcalf, ESPN. Bruce, you've obviously coached a lot of basketball, seen a lot of teams. How many 7-footers together have you seen like this in this Michigan lineup, and how many times have you seen two big men run the offense the way that they do a lot of times at Michigan?
I haven't seen this since I watched McHale and Parrish, right? I mean, these two guys are special. They're special. Golden, in the Big Ten, he was the best player on the floor almost every single night. And Wolf, there's not another 7-footer in college basketball that resembles him. He's got Larry Bird type ball handling, passing, feel, and he's just a gifted player. And obviously they work beautifully together. Now they're going to be going up against Dylan Cardwell and Janai Broome and Chaney Johnson. Those three guys are going to be the focus of our defensive attack. And our ability to defend those two guys, as well as the number 42 comes off the bench and shoots it a little bit for him, is going to be really the difference in the outcome.
Second row on the left.
Mike Griffith, Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Coach, I wanted to ask you kind of two-parter. One, couldn't help but notice the bracket. There's some teams you've faced in the past, I guess, at Tennessee that ended a few seasons. If you kind of trivially, it's a little bit trivial, but take note of that. And then, getting back to Izzo, asking about adjusting to the game, right? When you're talking about a 7-year-old coach that's done as long as Tom, do you see a lot of differences? And in truth, what are the adjustments outside of NIL transfer portal that we've seen over the last 10, 15 years?
Well, it would, Mike, in all fairness, and for full public disclosure, Mike covered me at Tennessee when I was a coach there. And so he remembered us losing the last game of the season to go to the Final Four to Michigan State. He remembered me losing my last game as coach at Tennessee to Michigan in a first-round game. So when Mike may have saw that bracket, that's not the first thing that came to, it may have been the first thing that came to his mind. It was not the first thing that came to my mind. Alabama State came to my mind, and Creighton or Louisville came to my mind, and this weekend we got a 4-team tournament against Michigan State, Michigan, and Ole Miss. So Michigan is as good as anybody in this field. They are. And I told our guys, I felt like Creighton could be in this group very easily. They'd made 4 out of the last 5 Sweet 16s. And I told our guys, if we can beat Creighton, when we get to Atlanta, there's not going to be anything there that's going to be beyond overwhelm us, right? Or even maybe even the Final Four. We're good enough to beat Creighton if we're good enough to beat Michigan. And of course, the survive and advance thing, I think that's really true the first and second round for 1 seed. It is about survive and advance for the top seeds. You get to this point, we feel like we're playing for a national championship now, and we have 4 times we're going to have to do it. That's how we feel. I'm just telling you how I feel. You don't feel like you're playing for the national championship in the first and second round. I love Coach Izzo because of his authenticity. I love him because he's so 100% real, and I love him because he speaks for the coaches he represents us extremely well. But at the same time, remember this: nobody loves his student athletes more than Tom Izzo. Nobody. And so he gets the idea that we're finally able to compensate our student athletes, and we're finally getting caught up in a system that was just delayed in recognizing the value of our student athletes. And at the same time, I think what happened in the questioning, somebody was asking him about where he was in the portal, like he's going to be worrying about it. I'm not worried about it right now, and neither is he. And it's not taking any time away from him. The adjustments, we still have guys at Auburn that have been here 4 and 5 years. Dylan Cardwell, 5 years. Chris Moore, 5 years. Last year, Jalen Williams was 5 years. I mean, we're still doing it the old-fashioned way. At the same time, we have added some tremendous pieces through the transfer portal. Most of our transfer portal guys were guys that were from junior college, Division II, mid-major. I'm so proud of a guy like Janai Broom, who comes from a very mid-major background, and Denver Jones, and Chad Baker-Mazara, and Cheney Johnson. All those guys, they just speak to the American dream, the story. It doesn't matter where you start. It's all about where you finish. So changing in the profession, you just got to adjust with the rule changes.
Back row here on the right side.
Jack Lear, Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Coach, I'm just curious, you talked about keeping a strong presence in Atlanta, recruiting, all that kind of stuff. What would a couple tournament wins, I know you play here annually, but what would a couple tournament wins do for maybe boosting that Atlanta, strength a little bit?
Well, it's great to be in Atlanta, and it's great to point out the quality of Atlanta basketball, particularly Atlanta high school basketball. It's as good as it is anywhere in the country. But honestly, winning here won't mean anything when it comes to recruiting anymore. I love to talk about Walker Kessler and Jabari Smith and Chuma Okeke and J.T. Thor and Sharif Cooper and Jabari Smith and about 7 or 8 Atlanta kids that are in the NBA that developed at Auburn, won championships. But right now, when it comes to recruiting, I don't know how much that means to an Atlanta high school player. Right now, it is more about the NIL. It's become way more transactional. They don't care about the fact that I've graduated 46 student athletes in the last 11 years. That I've graduated 33 African-American men in the last 11 years. That stuff used to matter. Unfortunately, it doesn't matter as much anymore. It still matters to me. It still matters to Tom Izzo. It still matters to our university. And I'm proud of it. And if you're uncomfortable hearing it, I'm sorry. Sorry for making you a little uncomfortable. But we are still coaches, and these are still student athletes, and we still have a responsibility to coach them as hard as we can. But when we're leaving them now, we need to leave them with a degree and not just the ability to work at Subway, but to own 5 of them. That's where we are right now, and I'm really happy about that.
Right side on the aisle, third row.
Bruce, after the 2022 season, and you'd lost Jabari and Walker, and since then, you've probably signed more transfers than you have freshmen. And now the result has been now that you're here in the Sweet 16. Could you just talk about that journey and your journey in recognizing what you needed to do?
Sure. I mean, the transfers that we've been able to get, guys. I have right now 11, actually 12 guys on scholarship. We get 13. I have never had 13 scholarship players since I've been at Auburn because I can't keep 13 happy. So one guy gets a walk-on scholarship every single year. And right now I actually have 2 in that category. And so the reason is you just want to put the kids in positions to be successful. I don't want to over-recruit. I want to have enough, but I don't want to have too much. And so I'm really, really pleased that with the exception of maybe 1 or 2 student athletes since the transfer portal's open, every single one of our transfers have come in and have had major impact, been all conference, been starters. So we pride ourselves in getting the right guys and making sure that we need them. That's the one thing about the difference between recruiting freshmen and young kids. They got to come in, they got to develop. You don't have to need them right away. And if they want it right away, freshmen, you better get a great one like a Tahad Pettifer. Otherwise, they're going to have to be patient. But when it comes to recruiting transfers, I think we have an obligation as coaches to only recruit transfers who can have some impact for us right away. And so that's what all of my transfers, almost all of my transfers have done.
Far left side, second row.
Hey, Robbie Listella, Bracketeer.org. A lot of talk about the portal, but I want to ask about your star freshman guard, Tahad Pettifer. Did you kind of know he'd have the confidence to succeed against veteran guards? And was there ever a moment you were concerned? And also, was there a moment where he kind of broke through for you?
Yeah. So Tahad, he comes from a great family, and he's got had great high school coaching, great AAU coaching. And his dad has handled him like as good as any father could. He always played him up. He always played him against older kids. And Tahad was always the smallest guy in the playground. He was always the littlest guy out there. And so therefore he always had so much to overcome, yet he might have been the best player out there. So Tahad was somewhat overlooked. He was ranked 25th, 26th, 27th coming out of high school. There aren't 25 high school freshmen in college this year that are better than Tahad Pettifer. But he got a chip on his shoulder. He's a little guy. And every time he goes out there to prove it, where I was wrong about Tahad, I thought Tahad was going to come in and be a scoring guard. Like, don't worry about running the team. Don't worry about being a point guard. Just come out here and bang shots, guard a little bit, make some stuff happen. Just do what you do. And instead, I recognize that, wow, he actually can handle the team. He can break pressure. He can close games. He can be a scoring point guard. And so he's exceeded my expectations as far as being able to play point guard, rather than being a scoring guard. He had very little drop up and down as a freshman. He was very, very consistent. Maybe at the very end of a regular season, at the very beginning of the SEC tournament, he may not have shot it as well for a couple games. And then he lived in the gym since then. And obviously he had a phenomenal weekend in Lexington to help us advance.
Last question in the back on the far left.
Bruce, Andrew Kahn, MLive.com, Ann Arbor News. I was wondering if you could speak about any history you have with Dusty May and, the fact that he's rebuilt a roster, kind of from scratch and brought them here.
How good a hire was Dusty May from Michigan? How good a hire was that, right? So a couple of pieces of history. Back when I was a coach at University of Southern Indiana, USI in Evansville, Indiana, he played for Oakland City and played for Mike Sanafar. And so we played them, one time. And then I just remembered him for being on Florida staff, so on Mike White's staff for a little bit, right? Am I correct about that? Okay. And then my dad lived in South Florida, and my dad would sort of every now and then go to breakfast meetings with sort of basketball people down in South Florida that love basketball, and anything for some bagels and cream cheese, anything. And Dusty remembered my dad being at a couple of his breakfast meetings when he was trying to talk to basketball people about building the Florida Atlantic program. And then the third thing would simply be when he hired KT Harrell. KT was a great player for us at Auburn my very first year. My first year at Auburn, the team had one or two players that belonged in the SEC. KT belonged not only in the SEC, but he was an SEC All-Star. And we didn't have that much to go around him, and our guys knew it. And our guys had, as you would expect, a very tough year during the regular season, but they never quit. And yet our guys knew on that first year's team, KT's team, that we were going to get it going. They could tell by the way we were coaching, the way we were recruiting, the way we were treating them. I so wanted KT's team my first year to be a part of that foundation, to be a part of what was going to happen. And I didn't think it was possible for them because we just weren't talented enough. That team came to Nashville and beat Mississippi State, beat Texas A&M, and beat LSU. 3 huge upsets. And then we played on the Saturday against Kentucky, a team that won the national championship. And we didn't belong in any of those games. That first-year team, KT Harrell's team, laid the groundwork for the success of Auburn basketball in the future.